Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining the Social Media Challenges and Their Workarounds webinar this morning. This is the third webinar from the marketing stream of our Leaders of Tomorrow program that Marilyn has been heading up. But also joining us this morning is Katy Howell from Immediate Future. This is a conversational piece, but please ask questions as and when you have them to get the best out of the session. A recording will be with you after the session, and previous webinar recordings are also available to anyone that wants them. You can refer to the Talent Hub page on the AEO website to find out what you might have missed. These webinars are also CPD accredited, so please drop me a line on Carmen, C-A-R-M-E-N, at aeo.org.uk if you'd like a certificate. Finally, if you have any technical difficulties, a simple refresh normally sorts it out. Otherwise, you'll be able to catch up on anything that you've missed on the recording. Right, over to you guys.
Thank you, Carmen. Good morning, everybody. I'm delighted to be joined by Katy this morning from Immediate Future. And Katy has got years and years of experience in digital and social, so it's a real pleasure to have her this morning. And I'm sure we've got a lot to learn from her. Katy, thank you so much.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me.
So with no further ado, we'd like to talk first about what's happening in the social media world and what should we know as event marketers and what should we be aware of.
This is a really challenging thing to talk about in social media because every 5 minutes something changes. Mm-hmm. So what I'm going to tell you today, probably in 24 hours, will be different. Social media is growing. It's still a very young industry. I mean, it's just, Facebook has only just made it to its 15th birthday. It's just getting through its teens at the moment. We're seeing some real changes in the last year, to be honest, which are trending quite fast. The growth and use of Instagram and Facebook stories, which is now a billion daily users, shows a new format of working that takes us away from the traditional timeline. We're also seeing the rise, a bit of a stuttered rise of chatbots for e-commerce. So chatbots are the little pop-ups that appear on your Facebook pages that allow you to have conversations or be in conversation with customers, consumers, attendees, audiences, exhibitors. Just last week, LinkedIn came out with interest targeting. Again, something that should be on the radar of every exhibition organizer right now, because now we can target individuals, particularly in the B2B exhibition space, not just by job title, but for what interests them. So you may find you have a marketing director that is interested in AI, and if you're running an AI show, do you see what I mean? You would not normally recognize that. Yeah. So now we have an opportunity to reach people by the things that they're kind of putting their hand up to say, I'm interested in. Mm-hmm. And then Twitter growth, which, Twitter was on its knees a couple of years ago, but it's growing rapidly and with a younger audience. Interesting. So I think it's part of what this whole moment-driven stuff, we'll talk about that in a minute. Yeah. But one of the things I want to dispel, though, before we kind of move on, is this. It's been a bit of a shaky year. I mean, 2018 has definitely been very shaky for social media. There's been lots of things in the consumer space that have made people worry a little bit about using social media.
And data privacy,
the use of teenagers, teenage use on social media, which is obviously exploding again. Yeah. And this whole kind of feeling given by the press that everybody is trying to detox from social. Actually, the numbers don't stack up at all because actually people aren't leaving Facebook in their droves. In fact, Facebook has just declared their Q4 numbers and they're increasing. Daily active users are, I think it's 2.71 billion daily active users. Even in the UK, it's still increasing. We are obsessed with social media as a culture, as a nation. And I think it's reflected in the fact that ad spend has also gone up 30%. Okay. And that means that big brands and small companies wouldn't be spending money if they weren't getting results. So the whole point is, if they're spending the money, it's because they're actually delivering results they want.
Okay. So you talked about the different platforms that are moving, and it's interesting. Twitter, I remember a couple of years ago when you could hear that it was, they were talking about it dying and all that. But there was some announcement in the news, I think it was last week, that WhatsApp was merging with Facebook and Instagram. Is that right?
It is.
And is it having an impact as marketers? That is it impacting the way we're going to use those channels from a marketing point of view, or is it more like a technical thing? Or
not really. I mean, there's probably going to be some questions about privacy and the cross exchange of data, but unlikely to have any impact. What really is happening, which is a bit of confusion really in the press that you're reading, is well, it's the back end that's merging, it's the technology that's merging, the services that sit behind it, the development that sits behind it that's merging. You won't be able to jump from one to the other in the same messaging way. They will still be discrete platforms, but messaging is a really good topic to talk about because messaging is on the rise, whether it's WhatsApp or Facebook Messenger. And when you're thinking about your social content, you need to think about these dark, because we can't see. If you message me, Marilyn, the world, you might tell me all about what the AEO is doing. The AEO won't know you're telling me that. So one of the things we want to do when we think about our social media is creating content that's easy to message, easy to share that way. It's a really good way of making sure that you're building your audience profile, even when you can't see it.
Okay, interesting. Is there anything else we need to be aware of what's happening there?
I think the moment thing is very interesting. As social media is being used, in some cases hourly, we're seeing an increase in people following trends and things that happen through the day. Little memes and ideas spark up. The announcement, for instance, of Star Trek. A renewed series on Star Trek, for instance, is a great example where suddenly a big balloon of conversation suddenly comes and it spreads very quickly from Twitter to Instagram to Facebook and it moves across the platform as people jump in and out because most consumers run between 7 and 8 profiles. Do you know that? Gosh. I know. Isn't it astonishing?
I know. I've got about 4 profiles now.
Enough. And then, add your messenger in, you're looking at 6. And very quickly, before you know it, plus work tools like Slack, you suddenly think, oh, I'm on lots of different, you're finding you're jumping between one and the next, and actually, that's quite normal, because that's what consumers are doing.
So, it's a vast subject, and actually we can't cover the whole social media even in the space of 2 webinars, because I think as marketers we've got to learn and grasp the channels we use. But if there was, sometimes marketers say, how many channels should we be using for our events, and what would you say to them? I mean, how many channels they should have to promote their event?
Oh, I love it when I get asked that question because it's a wrong question.
Great.
It's a wrong question. The answer to the question is, where is your audience?
Indeed.
It's not how many channels or whether Instagram is growing and should it be Twitter. These are all the wrong questions. Think of it as out of home. Would you advertise on a billboard in the desert or would you advertise on a billboard outside your coffee shop?
Indeed.
You go where your audience is. You don't just go, oh, this billboard is bigger than that billboard. It doesn't really matter. So the reality is you have to go where your audience is. So the first thing you do whenever you think about social media is say, where are my visitors? Where are they situated? And how best can I reach them? Once you do it that way round, you'll find out very quickly where your soft spots are. So, some of the, it's very easy to go, Instagram is all about young people and Facebook is all about old people, but it varies. We've seen some markets where Instagram is also about an older generation. We've seen some industries where it's Facebook that's younger.
Yes, and talking about that, because we've got some of the listeners here who run B2B campaigns for trade shows, and we've got marketers who run consumer campaigns. And very often you see the consumer shows tend to use more of Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and the B2B tend to use more LinkedIn and Twitter. I mean, it's not a set format, but actually, are there some platforms that we see more as consumer-led that should be applied to B2B events?
Yes, I mean, this is probably in the last couple of years the switch has started to happen. Do you know what? I have yet to meet a person who has a button inside them that they switch on and off. I'm a consumer. No, I've got a professional head on. People don't do that.
No.
And in fact, social media blends the two. We leap from our professional thinking, our skill set, our careers, into our personal lives and back again. Yeah. We do our shopping on the train into work, and we do read white papers on the train home. You know, it doesn't make any difference. And we discover this content through every format. The reason I say that is actually the most successful platform we know of to date for B2B, targeting, would you believe, C-suite, right? So this is the most senior people, is Facebook.
Interesting.
And it's about tailoring your message to the right format, but actually Facebook outperforms everything else. And it is, you know, don't get me wrong, LinkedIn is more direct and more accurate, but also LinkedIn is most expensive. It's the most expensive platform you will use. Yeah. So you want to be using a blend of the two. It's not either or, but it's about saying, where is my audience and how will I reach them and at what point might they think? You know, for instance, I'll give you a great example, marketing directors. Marketing directors, do you know when they're most likely to be on social and booking things like events and thinking about the week ahead? Sunday night.
Yes.
Because of course they are.
Yeah.
Because that's what they're doing. They're checking their email. They're going, what's ahead of me for the week? They're planning their Monday mornings and they're planning their Friday afternoons and they're working out where they're going. Great time to get somebody both through LinkedIn, through Facebook, through Twitter.
Interesting. Especially for B2B event marketers, I think it'd be interesting to actually think about, you know, if they've never used Facebook, how maybe it's something I should be considering in the future.
We're getting astonishing results, I have to say, from Facebook.
Great insight, thank you. So in terms of the social media trends, I mean, I suppose, you know, we talked yesterday on the phone before today, and we were saying, you know, how do marketers get to learn more and keep up to date? And again, it's just a really hard question to ask, because, you know, we might read different marketing blogs, and but I think even marketers work across so many things. You know, they do copywriting and ticketing and box office registrations and direct mail advertising. So social media is only one part of the job, and I think that's a challenge we are faced constantly. It's like we can't master all those skills, but you know, if they work on specific channels, I mean, what would be the advice you could give them?
Mine would be stop pursuing the new and shiny. It's really tempting to go, oh, Instagram's got this, or you can do this in your new format on Facebook. Because it's very hard to keep up with all of that stuff. It's really difficult. Look, a good marketing plan is a good marketing plan. A good understanding of your messaging is the right way forward. Once you understand that, do the basics well. Yeah, there are lots of sites you can read, and social changes all the time. But when you're confronted with that moment you have to put a post out, you'll learn at that point. When you have to put a post out, when you have to manage your page, that's the point you'll learn, and you'll learn the most. You could spend a lot of time trying to understand everything. You know, and as an organisation that only focuses on social media, one of the reasons we write a daily blog is to keep us up to date. But that's our job. That's all we do. we don't have anything else to do. So it's our job to do that. So for marketeers out there that are looking at this, they're very welcome to go visit our blog and have a look at the stories that are on there and the ideas and thinking and the way you may go forward. But in reality, good marketing is good marketing. And I do feel fundamentally we get a bit swept up in the digital thing.
Indeed,
and forget what our purpose is, which is to get more visitors and attract more exhibitors. That's it.
Absolutely. That's great. Thank you so much.
That's all right.
It's a really good insight. And actually, that Facebook insight in the B2B, I think is fantastic. Now we're going to touch on social media advertising, and I know you do a lot. I think it's, you know, what you do at the core as well from the core of your business as well. Now, some events have got small marketing budgets, and some just tiptoe to starting using agencies as well. I mean, what would you say the benefits of working with an agency and looking at advertising, social advertising?
Well, can I separate the two?
Of course.
So let's talk about advertising, which is, you know, since the social networks are all IPO'd, they need to make money.
Yes.
And your organic content, regardless of your the sort of vanity metrics of how many numbers you've got following you, roughly somewhere between 0.6 and 2% of your audience will see any post you put out. It may be cheaper to go hand out leaflets.
Yes.
Generally.
So what we're saying here is reality. If you put a post on Facebook and you have 100,000 followers, it's actually the number of people who are going to see your post is meaningful.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that the people sort of, they kind of get into it. What you need to understand is that we call it organic posting, which is non-paid for posting. It's a hygiene thing. But if somebody comes and looks for you, they see a lively, interesting feed. You have to pay to play. There is just no choice. Okay, social media is not free. No. It hasn't been free for about 8 years.
No.
So,
and in a way, there's some misconception. People think, it's free because we can post. Yeah. But actually, what we don't realize, we're not reaching the whole community by just posting organically.
I'd actually be as bold enough to say that if you won't pay to do it, don't do it. Don't waste your time because it's too much effort. Yeah. You will invest instead in resources that could be better served going elsewhere. Okay. I would be that bold. You have to pay to play. Mm-hmm. The reason to use an agency is a slightly separate thing. Mm-hmm. So the advantage of agencies, you can see social media is a very narrow discipline, but it's very, very deep. It taps into behavioural science. So why do people sort of bubble up on BBC Question Time every night it's on and then die down again? Why is it Bake Off attracts so much attention? And why is it everybody talks about chocolate when very rarely is chocolate mentioned on Bake Off? It's all these kind of questions where the behavioural science comes into it. Then there's the technology and what you can do with your format. And then there's the advertising and creative skill that allows you to get stand out in a really, really noisy space. Yeah. Those are the things an agency like ours is completely focused on. So there's the expertise, and then on the other side of it is the scale. When you've got a small department, social media is very time intensive. It requires you. It's not like a TV campaign, which you spend 3 months planning and developing and going out with. It's not like even a press campaign. You're putting stuff out virtually every day, often out of hours. Yeah. It's very time intensive, so we often work with clients who need that scale, who need to be able to do that, but don't have the resources in-house. So kind of two rational reasons.
That's great. And some events don't have huge marketing budgets.
No.
And I think sometimes the challenge, and I agree with you, we totally spend a lot of time doing organically and not realizing that we're not really reaching, and you said something, and it's difficult to say because we might have some people listening here who have, six-figure marketing budget, and some will have a tiny marketing budget. So we can't really say this is the minimum we should be spending because there's not a true answer to that.
No, and it's I'm guessing your community knows quite a lot about AdWords.
Yes.
So social works on the same principle, which is bid pricing.
Yeah.
So it's variable. So even if you came to us and said, this is the audience I want to target, until you tell me what time of year it is and when you're likely to do it, I can't give you costs to reach. What you should be doing is saying, how many people do I need to reach? Yeah. And how am I going to drive them through that kind of McKinsey loop, which is, how do I get them interested? How do I get them to consider coming to my event? And how do I get them to buy the ticket? The sort of three sort of phases of purchase. So trying to drive people through that customer journey is what you're doing with paid. Yeah. You're, sending out, videos of your event. You're then collecting the data of the people that watch those videos and you're retargeting them. Yeah. And as you retarget them, you're telling them more about, the dates and what they can expect and where they can park their car and who will be exhibiting and your headliners and all that kind of stuff. And then you're punching through with book your early bird tickets now. So you're driving them through that whole sort of customer journey. Yes. And I think that's where paid pays well. Yes. But to answer the question of how much, it's just there are so many variables. Indeed. The one thing I'd caution against is boosting posts.
Okay.
So boosting posts for 50 quid or £100 or whatever it is you've got, it's just very meaningless. And the reason is that to boost a post doesn't allow you to do the targeting and fine targeting. Yeah. And it's a bit like running one ad. It's never enough. The basics of marketing are reach and frequency. Yeah. So I mean, my old marketing tutor said to me, you know, you have to say a message at least 3 times and have no more than 3 messages. But at least 3 times means you need to have some repetition in order for that to get into people's heads that this is an important event.
So if you had a key message such as, you know, registration is going live next week or tickets going on sale next week, are you saying that we should have that message, you know, going live 3 times in different ways? Or
yes, although that I would consider a call to action rather than a message.
Yeah.
The message should be the message has to be driven by value.
Yeah.
So what's the value in attending? Not whether the tickets are good. The ticket is the driver. Yeah. The message is saying why would this individual want to come to this event? And it might be to expand their knowledge. It might be to refresh their career. It might be because it's a passionate and they love knitting and they want to go to the latest knitting show. Yeah. They may need new patterns. They may want to take their grandma. All of these things are rational. That's your messaging. So what you do is you work out what your passion points are, what your pain points if it's B2B, what are the bits that are troubling that industry. And on top of that, you say the message is coming to this show benefits you by. Yeah. That's your message. Then your driver is tickets go on sale. Yes. So there's slightly different layers.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. And I think we talked about budgets, working with an agency. You talked about videos as well. And can you tell us from your experience? I've seen some campaigns where we use static images on some of the posts, sponsored posts or paid campaigns, and I've seen some really clever videos. Is there an answer that videos works better than images, or can you tell us from your own experience?
So let me just take you back a step.
Yes.
Most of us access our social networks on a mobile phone.
Yeah.
Which is quite a small screen, really. Even with some of the larger smartphones, it's a fairly smallish screen. And the noise of our feeds is quite loud. We're predominantly, when we're on Facebook, for instance, looking at what our friends and family are talking about. So there's lots of conversation, lots of posts going out, most of them with static images. So how do you get standout? So the way to get standout on social is moving images. So video, GIFs, boomerangs, these are all increasing your opportunity to grab attention. And more importantly, video is on the rise. It's an easy thing to watch. Agreeably, most of us watch it with subtitles and sound off. Yeah. But it's an easy thing to consume rather than trying to read on a small screen. So absolutely, pretty much all of your posts should have some motion in them of some sort. What you want to do is make it thumb-stopping. Imagine scrolling through your feed and you stop because you go, ooh, what's that? Because it's moving. And there are really clever ways in which you can kind of hack the system in order to get more attention. Yeah. Because in that, all that social media conversation, all that noise that goes on, we want to kind of go, we want to punch through and go, this is our message. Pay attention to us. Notice us. Yeah. And that's the bit you want to do. Okay. And that's why you need video and motion. And video is probably the one thing exhibition organisers need to make a really dominant part of this year, because it gives you the feel, it gives you the understanding of what a show can be like. And it doesn't have to be overtly professional. No. You can do anything from lives, from Periscope to Facebook Live, through to the kind of B-roll kind of snippets, through to GIFs and boomerangs. You can make it fun. Depends on the tone of your show.
Indeed. And actually, when we have our events live, we can capture so much content.
I know.
And that content can be used post-event.
I know.
To be repurposed. So there's so much we need to learn.
There's so much opportunity to take what you're doing at an event, from testimonials to quotes to showing how busy stands are, to showing the experiences of seeing a chef cooking live. I'm kind of making this stuff up, but
the best keynote you could ever have, opening your conference or your trade show, and that it gives you a status.
And I think there's two things that sit for that. One is attracting people, during the show period, so people who hadn't thought of going, or people who have got their ticket but decided not to turn up, pushing them to come through the door. And then the last bit is making damn sure that you post-event getting that story out.
Absolutely.
Stating it in so people look out for it the following year.
So that brings me on to our next slide, perfectly well, which is audience engagement. And we did a small survey at the AO Forum 2 weeks ago, asking people what they want to hear about, and then audience engagement pre, during, and post is something that they want to know a little bit more. But also because sometimes people say, don't really know what to do, so I have a show once a year. We live 3-4 days of the year, and what do we do to talk all year round? And how do we create valuable content all year round? And some advice on are we relevant even if we are just live in June or November or whenever our event is happening?
I think it's a huge challenge when you're once a year to be active all year round, and that means you're presented with a different way of working. You need to start a couple of months out easily, but the place to start again is with audiences. You should be looking at the different kinds of people that will attend your event and their different rationales for coming. So it's kind of like their mission. What is their mission in coming to your event? Is it to experience more? Is it to have fun? Is it a day out? All of these things. And what you do is you build your content around those themes. So you listen to what those audiences, once you've identified them, what are they talking about? What is their passion? What are they interested in? So we've just done a report on healthy eating. It's not on exhibitions, it's looking at how people talk about healthy eating. And uncovering that, we've discovered that there's an absolute dislike for chefs who are a bit patronising about eating well. There's a particular chef that kind of gets it in the neck slightly, and it's a very divisive subject, which is unexpected. And actually, avocados don't feature very largely in the world of healthy eating. So by looking at what people are actually talking about around the subject of your show, you're able to see what it is that's likely to resonate, and it gives you content ideas. So you start by understanding what the customer, the visitor, the exhibitor is thinking, rather than what you want to get out there. You start that side, and you start 2 months out, and you get involved in partnerships with others in the industry, from associations to magazines, to who will help extend that content, which is a very natural fit for exhibition organisers anyway, but you extend it into social. And then you look at being either part of that conversation or enhancing that conversation. So either look at this, you can actually come and see the chefs cooking this food, or you might not want to talk about avocados, but guess what you can do with an avocado? That kind of, you start to play as part of that to get people's attention. And the majority of what you're trying to do in that first couple of months is awareness. Awareness, and then as you get closer to the show, then driving through to ticket purchase. At the event, you're going live, and it's such a great way to distribute content.
Absolutely,
is to bring that whole feeling, of kind of the feeling of the event to life.
Absolutely, and the day one of an event, whether it's a festival, a B2B event, can have a huge impact on how the next 2 or 3 days of your event are going to perform. So you might be selling many more tickets on the door by having this massive engagement. Oh, we want to be there. And so what do marketers need to do and to think about, need to capitalize on social channels?
It's about showcasing, isn't it? It'll be showcasing every element. You will have, hero events, speakers, you'll have hero stands, you should be wrapping up packages for your exhibitors that include some of this, so that you're able to showcase them, because ultimately people are coming to see what's on show. And that should be part of kind of almost like your sales package, that I can add this to this. So there's an opportunity to, as you rightly say, to make day one count by delivering on day 2 and 3 and 4, etc. But also to keep people there longer, and also to help them get round the show. They don't just come in, see something, go out, but that you encourage them to circulate. And all of these things, of course, will help you the next time around, make the show even more successful, because suddenly they've had a better experience. They've had an experience that they can share afterwards. So which is really valuable, because if they share it afterwards, guaranteed the next time round more people will attend.
So, and the shareability actually is really important, because those visitors, when they come through the doors, you want them to capture as well. And there's new things like mosaics where people will hashtag share. There's some clever ways now happening, but it's getting that audience when they come to your event to take pictures and videos themselves and to create your word of mouth. There's a lot of events when I've looked at some of the research on some events, and 10 years ago when you asked people, how did you hear about the event? Word of mouth was number one on a lot of events. And now it's social. So actually social has become the new word of mouth for a lot of events. And so getting our visitors on day one and day two and day three as well, but to really share how, you know, I'm guessing
it's future-proofing your event, isn't it? It's exactly that, which is you become the show that's known to be the show, then you start to future-proof your event. It gets easier and easier. And we see it again and again. You see shows that were languishing that suddenly hit on that theme, that bit that caught everybody's consciousness, and they start sharing it, and then it almost becomes a thing in its own right, doesn't it? It becomes the bit everybody says, and are you going to this event? That's where you need to get to, and that is it's almost like the kind of mission statement for exhibition organizer marketeers. It's like, what I want is my show to be famous in its sector, in its market, in its industry.
So there's a lot of planning that is required, and I think sometimes, and you know, and I've made a mistake myself, that we get to an event and we're so busy and we trying to get everything ready, and that's sometimes, and we're so busy sometimes with getting sure that the customer service and the registration, whatever is ready, that we forget the marketing side. And I've been in those shoes myself. So what would be the advice to marketers in terms of how much planning we need to do for that when the event is live?
You need to plan at the point you're scoping out the shape of the show, because you will also want markers through the show with hashtags and invitations to share. You have, your plans are very detailed. I mean, to the point where you know exactly who you'll be videoing, where you'll be videoing, which interviews will take place, where you need to send the camera to, where you need to put signposting to encourage user-generated content. All of these things need thinking up front. It's not rocket science, but it is planning, and it is a thing that is fundamental to the core of every exhibition organizer. They're good planners. I mean, you can't run a show without being a good planner. All it requires you to do is to step up and plan it in the same way for social. So it should be, I wouldn't say it's easy, it should be a second nature kind of thing. It's very easy to make social an afterthought, and that's the mistake. The mistake is trying to rush around at last minute and make it happen. It's much harder work. Don't do that to yourself.
No, and you know, and sometimes it's easily said that done, but I think the big learning here is to be good planners. And as an event organizer, we have to be really good at, have very good organization skills, because we're juggling so many things. But planning our social is key, really, to make sure that we can capitalize and get our visitors to be our ambassadors effectively, and do the marketing for us. In a way.
And often you need to seed that idea, so making sure that everybody within the organisation is involved in sharing information. So you don't just rely on your attendees. You're also relying on your speakers, your organisers, your operational staff, your runners. All of these people should have a role, and they should know exactly what it is that they, whether or not you tell every runner that they have to take 3 pictures and add them to the hashtag on a daily basis of things going on around the show.
And could I just ask you a question that's just coming to mind now, is that the social channels, when we are live at an event, becomes also a customer service channel. For example, I've worked on an event at the NEC years ago where there was snow, and we didn't have social media then, but you can say delays on the motorway, or you can say this amazing keynote will start in 10 minutes, or and it's finding the balance between, sometimes you have a duty as an event organizer to get those customer service posts out, but at the same time keeping the engagement, and it's a fine line, I'm guessing.
Yes, and I think you're absolutely spot on. It should be you. You don't want to be setting up separate channels, really. No. So, and also you see a change in the way people behave. Prior to an event, Facebook and LinkedIn will dominate, as will Insta. However, at a show, a bit like TV, Twitter sort of kind of takes over, a little bit of Insta, and certainly stories will run with it. So that's Facebook and Instagram stories. But it's much more in the moment. So to a certain extent, you can kind of back off the LinkedIn and the mainstream posting. And what you're doing is now posting live, and it's a slightly different way of doing it. And you should also think about doing video lives, so that you attract more attention. So if there is a problem like the snow, having a stand-up, somebody say, here are the routes in, or we know that there's issues here, but it's actually once you're past junction X, it's free flowing, and we've got coffee waiting, that kind of thing.
Yes, I'm just looking at some of the questions that are coming through. Another question from Andrew: how do you protect from negative? Let me see if I can open it. Negative social media. Can we protect from negative social media?
Yeah. I mean, well, let's just say what you. It's like, okay, so in PR, you can't stop a crisis. No. But you can mitigate it. Yes. So what you're looking to do is plan for it. So what are the things that can go wrong? Okay. So a key part of the event doesn't start on time. Queues are long outside the door. Have your responses ready. Be ready. Have somebody who will respond and say, we've had, everybody's arrived at the same time. Bear with us. We're moving people as fast as we can. You know what it's like. I always say to people, the worst thing you can do is be standing at a station and knowing that the train is cancelled, but not knowing why. No, absolutely. Well, as soon as you know why, you're not happy, but at least you understand it. Yes. Same principle with exhibitions. Plan for all the worst case scenarios, and frankly, we've all been in exhibitions long enough to know what all the worst case scenarios are. So, but in my view, what you do is you list them all out, you understand how you will respond, what will happen. It's the same as you do, which is what happens if there's a fire. Everybody, what happens if there's an issue with the stand collapsing? We know what the drills are. We just make the same drills in motion, so you can plan for it. You cannot totally get rid of negativity. No. What you can do, though, is uplift the positive. Indeed. So the negative bit, unless you've got a very persistent troll, then basically you're drowning out the bad bit. So it's to keep the positive conversation going. So having that positive...
And being transparent, I'm guessing.
Yes, very much so.
Yes, okay. There's another question here that just come through from Emma, asking, during a B2B event, is there a maximum of posts to do on Facebook, for example, to avoid to be considered as a spam by the Facebook algorithm?
Well, again, if you're doing it organically, you probably won't want more than 2 or 3 posts in a day on Facebook. I'm not sure if Facebook would care that you're seen as a spammer or not, because it won't look at it like that. On Twitter, it won't make any difference at all, other than you can I've seen hashtags go completely ballistic, over events and shows, and it's exactly how it should be. But you wouldn't really be posting every hour on Facebook. It would be weird, because people don't look at Facebook. It's not a live channel in the same effect. So the only way I'd say you do that is to run stories, and you run stories in batches of about 7. So that's roughly around the kind of number of stories that you'd roll out in a day. And the same with Instagram. And then on the other channels you go live, and the rest of it is you need to put paid. Even live during the show, you should be targeting paid. And you can do proximity targeting or geo-targeting to location. So if you have an area of your exhibition that is maybe not got a lot of people in it, now's the time to geo-target everybody in that region and say, lunch is being served in sector blah blah blah, or go along to the lounge to hear the latest speaker. You should be putting pay behind that, and you should do most of that in Twitter, which is very good for that geo-targeting.
Yes. So again, there's a planning and then thinking about it. And once the event is over, and we've all made our mistakes, and we very often, as marketers, we get moved on to another event, and we haven't got time to breathe, and then we've got next campaign, and we let that brand or that event just sit quietly in the corner, and then we reappear talking to our community a few months later, which is not what we should be doing really. And but at the same time, the challenge sometimes we have that, what do we talk about after the event? And because we're only live once a year, have you got any advice to give us on that?
I think I think you're absolutely right, and I understand the
challenge.
the commercial challenge, which is the next thing is to move to the next show to make that profitable. But if you've done the right thing during the show, you now have a lot of content. It's not about producing more content. It's now about scheduling that content. Do you remember when? And if you missed this, we will be having Bob back next year to talk about this, or whatever it is your thing is. And as you're starting to lay down the plans for the following year, you want to be going out with this content not just to kind of embed it in visitors, but your real commercial reason for doing it is to get repeat bookings from exhibitors.
Exactly.
Because you need to be telling them the good stuff that's happened at the show. So it's kind of like that highlights opportunity. So for 3 or 4 weeks afterwards, you want to be doing that. Then I suggest you keep a low-level hum running on your profiles. I totally understand that this is a very challenging thing to keep a year's worth of conversation. But getting in bed with local associations, getting your exhibitors to get behind it, being part of that conversation through the year is going to keep that low level with a couple of posts a week. You're still here. You haven't dropped off the face of this planet. Has real value. Without
you don't have to post as often, but you still have a presence.
Yes, exactly. Don't lose that connection that you've had with people. Because also what tends to happen is when you burst back onto the scene, everybody goes, what, who are these people?
What are these people? We've never heard from them.
And they unfollow you, and off they disappear, and you spent all that time getting them on board. So maybe thinking a little bit more strategically about how you work with exhibitors, those that repeat book, how they might contribute to your hashtag, to your profile, how you'd retweet stuff that's going on in the industry, working with partners, so magazines and publications and associations to amplify the noise that they're making. So you can just retweet some of their stuff, just be present.
Be present, So, and also I'm guessing, because we've gathered so much content when we've been at our event, I'm guessing we pretty have hours of footage, and we have some quotes. We've got some papers that were presented that can be repurposed as a blog, maybe. So it's really thinking about, well, we are content rich. Actually, we are in a fortunate position. We aren't only live once a year, but saying that our events are content rich. And how do we use that content, repurpose it later on without becoming a full-time job? Because actually we don't have, as you say, to be present.
You don't need to be creating new videos. You don't need to be creating new stuff. You're absolutely right. And cutting your videos, cutting the testimonials, whether they're live testimonials or just creating simple GIFs out of, phrases people said, the best show ever, or, oh my God, I didn't know you could do that with a mushroom. Don't quote me. But even that sort of fun stuff that you could do around, say, a food show, and without a doubt, B2B, it's the biggest missed opportunity in B2B exhibitions, is the continuation of the conversation to be part of that. Embedding your exhibition, event, festival, whatever it is, in the industry makes it just the thing that when people say, oh, it's March, don't forget we need to go to this show. You want that thought in April the year before. And that's where we need to get to. We need to get to a place where, particularly in B2B, we're very embedded in that.
And absolutely, we mustn't forget traditional marketing and how we used to behave and work before we had social media. When we did the country partnership, that still exists. But if we have a media partner on board, the media partner actually publishes their publication every month or every week. So actually they have some content that they might be willing to share with us.
Well, you have an audience.
Exactly.
You have an audience of followers that you've built during the show. You're another way for them to get publicity. So the contra deal actually works in their favour, not yours. But what you're really doing is giving people more reasons to follow you. You're like the filter. I'm filtering what's going on in the industry through our exhibition.
And you become more relevant, and I suppose it strengthens your brand as well.
It just requires a bit more commitment across the year, and you can dial it down, but it still requires some resource, and that is a change in structure.
Okay. That's very fascinating.
It's
It's fascinating and challenging at the same time, because as we have so many things to juggle, that
I know.
The amount of planning and required. So now I wanted to talk about building targeted communities, and I think I was looking at some of the events I've worked on as well, and how big some of the social communities are. And sometimes they're not very big. Or sometimes you might be launching a new event, and you start your social media platform, and you've got very little. And some of the questions that came from the AO forum 2 weeks ago is that how do you build your community, and do you just rely purely on your own channels and try to boost them and invest marketing budget in it, or do you try to be part of the conversations that are already existing, and and is there a balance in between the two?
I'm not a great lover of communities, I'll be really honest. Most communities do not sit around brands, whether that brand is an exhibition or an event or if it's toothpaste. It doesn't make a difference. You don't have a community. Communities follow passions, not, So, the reason I'm not very fond of communities is they require lots and lots of love and attention. Communities don't just happen. You have to nurture them and manage them and look after them and parent them and school them, and that's an annual bit of work. So if we're talking about organisers who are already stretched very thin, maintaining a community is pointless. It'll just take so much investment, it's not worth it. The number of followers you have on your profile is also irrelevant. We call them vanity metrics. They're the metrics that our slightly grey-haired CEOs like, but they're meaningless. They just have no value at all. They they make no difference to the bottom line, because every post you put out is only seen by less than 2% of that audience. So who cares? Who cares how many followers you have? This is not a community. Communities are people talking to each other as well as talking to you. That doesn't exist on forums. Unless they're in forums. But forums are a different thing, and they require you to have a different management structure. That's a real investment of managing a whole forum or a forum group. So you can see it by the number of LinkedIn groups with tumbleweed rolling through them because nothing is happening. Actually, much better is to join other communities when you're ready and how you're ready. It's much less of an investment from your perspective. As long as what you do is before you join, you listen. You listen, you engage with the forum or community owner, you become part of that community. As a help support, we're part of adding value. Otherwise, you are going to have to invest a huge amount in building a community. You have to be a very specific kind of show to want to build a lot of community around you. It has to be a very big event in order to do that with a lot of power. And you would, without a doubt, need a community manager to do that, and that's a full-time job. Working on one show.
That's not realistic in most event organisers.
So I think way better is those communities exist. Whether it's cooking or whether it's IT, cloud, those communities exist. Go find them, go join them, be part of them. It's a much easier way of doing it.
Okay. And one question, pretty slightly different in terms of the way that people engage. I think B2C events tend to be more emotional, and the B2B are more matter of fact. Do you think on the B2B events we should bring a bit more emotions in the way we engage on social media?
Oh, definitely. In fact, most people go to B2B events for the emotional reason. How's this helping me? How's this servicing my business? Where is this going to benefit my personal career? They're very personal reasons. In fact, we never buy anything without that side of it. In fact, it's the more logical we are, the more we'll talk people out of coming to our events. So yes, emotional. That doesn't mean you certainly put 300 emojis in your tweet, because that won't work either. It's all being emotional. So it's about understanding the language you're using, which is really all about those triggers that we talked about. What are the reasons? Where are the pain points? And that feeling that the show understands that these are pain points or difficulties or challenges in the B2B world, and that the show is being designed to deal with that. It's a much more emotional, evocative conversation. I'd also counter that not all consumers are emotional.
Very, very good point.
So, often I've seen it with shows that involve, for instance, children. So while the children may want to go to the show, whether it's Peppa Pig, and it's a long time since my children were that small, the parents are going to be more concerned about where are they going to feed their kids, where is their parking, What happens if their child is unwell? So these become factors in deciding when to go and how much it's going to cost them. So it's actually very logical bits in there.
Totally.
So are non-emotional, which are play just as much part in the decision-making process. So to assume one or the other on either of those is incorrect.
Absolutely.
So in both cases, you have to think about both sides of the fence.
Absolutely. But coming back to the B2B audience, for example, networking is a big part. And I know that when I've been to B2B marketing events, I look forward to meeting my old colleagues.
Yes.
So there's a huge, and that's sort of the networking actually needs to be sold as a big emotional thing and a big part of the event as well. But what you're saying, the core of it actually is coming back to understanding your audience and how you talk their language. It's always, which is basically at the core of being a good marketer.
It is, the best bit.
It's the best bit about it. That's great. Is there anything else you would like to give advice to event marketers? I know you know the event industry quite well yourself. So any other advice in terms of social media as a whole and the whole spectrum of the marketing skills we need to have to market events?
I think the only thing is don't be overwhelmed. It's easy to be overwhelmed, and at the end of this, you might be going, "Oh my God, all the things I've got to think about." Don't be overwhelmed. Look, do a few things well. Do them very well. Don't try and spread yourself so thin you're trying to do everything. Do those bits with good content. Understand your audiences well enough to deliver them relevant content that's going to be of interest to them. Put paid behind it, but focus your paid on getting the right people in the right context with the right messages to want to buy a ticket to come or want to register to attend. Those are the things I would say. It's very easy because social moves so quickly and everything moves so fast. And you hear this story and that story, and oh my God, I need to do this. Look, stick to your knitting. You know what you're doing. Focus on the bits of social that work well, and expect it to take baby steps because your industry has to change. It needs to become more digitally savvy. It needs to be more marketing led. And the exhibition industry is a little slow. It's trailing a lot of other industries. And it needs to I say that with the warmest of hearts, it needs to take those steps forward and be brave. The thing is, it's never going to do it by leaping off a cliff. It's going to do it in small steps, proof cases, and then you can go justify additional budget.
That's great. Thank you so much, Katy. It's so invaluable. I mean, a lot to take on as marketers, and I've learned so much from listening to you for the last 45 minutes. And always being a good planner, having always your audience at the core of it, and taking those baby steps and to improve your social, and then and I suppose as marketers always go and challenge our marketing budgets and make sure that there is the relevant budget there to invest in our social campaigns.
Terrific. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Carmen. Back to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ladies. Really interesting stuff there. I did laugh about the tumbleweed rolling through the LinkedIn groups. Not guilty. Please keep an eye out for the next string of marketing webinars coming up, guys, and let us know if there's anything specific you'd like to learn about. As mentioned earlier, a recording of this webinar will be with you within the next hour. So keep an eye out for that. And also, a survey will also be going out to you this afternoon. If you do object to our survey provider contacting you for feedback, please let me know, and we'll take your name off the data list. And thanks again, ladies. Speak soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.